Hi, this is Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that spotlights the stars of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So sit back, relax, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Hey, it's Rick Anthony, and welcome to this episode of Someone You Should Know, and I got to tell you about this guy here. He is definitely someone you should know because of his accolades are so long, and this is just amazing. An award-winning international touring American entertainer, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, producer, composer, filmmaker based in L.A., 12 studio albums, 2 EPs, and get this, a record store day exclusive vinyl single that's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's my friend Ted Wulfers. Ted, welcome aboard.
Hello, good morning. Thank you.
This is really cool, Ted. I started going through all your accolades here, and I'm going, my goodness, how come we haven't heard of this guy before? He's amazing, but a lot of people know you, and I want to get all my listeners to know you as well. Ted, you live in L.A. right now, obviously with the involvement with the film industry and such, but you grew up in Chicago, right?
I grew up in Chicago. Yeah, Chicago is where I grew up, and first got into music, and started my first band, and first got into songwriting, and then I've been living out here in the L.A. area for about the last 12 to 15 years.
Whereabouts in Chicago, bud?
I grew up in Arlington Heights,
okay.
Out near, just outside. O'Hare is kind of the closest, biggest landmark. But grew up in Arlington Heights, and but just spent a lot of time, playing shows, very, very early age in the city, all around the area. And one of the great things about the Chicagoland area is it is the Chicagoland area. It's
totally agree with you there. Totally agree with you. Ted, there is a photo of you as a bat boy with the Cubs. What's the story behind that?
I was quite the baseball player. I first started playing baseball when I was 18 months old, and there was actually, I always say in a former life, but there was a period of time when actually the Baltimore Orioles were looking at me as a prospect, as a young power hitting first baseman. And so I would go out to spring training quite a bit. I'd go to some of these baseball camps, some are for the pros, some are for the amateur stuff. But as a kid growing up, when I grew up, man, if you were like, at 10 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old in the late 80s, early 90s, if you went to spring training, you could hang out with all the players. It was just a magical time for baseball. There was no security. Weren't all the fences and the exclusivity that there is now. And so really what it got down to is I started playing catch with some of the guys at the minor league parks, and then they were just like, hey, you should bat boy for us. So I bat boy for numerous minor league and major league Cubs teams. And then I would just go up to other managers. And so I bat boyed for the Brewers.
Oh, my goodness.
Get to hang out with Paul Molitor for like 4 hours, just having this amazing conversation, and Robin Yount. And then I bat boyed for the California Angels. And just it was a thing of, you could just go up to the teams and you could just say, hey, do you guys need a bat boy today? And they said, no, we don't. Come on down. And so it became a joke. I was, 9, 10, 11 years old, and I'd be with my dad at the game, and if he couldn't find me, he knew I was on the field.
That's amazing.
This was before cell phones and before any of that, and so sometimes he would just like look down at the dugout, and I'd look up, and yep, okay, oh, Ted's that's where Ted will be for the game.
Let's back up to November of 2016. You were in L.A. I was in St. Louis at the time, and it was Game 7 of the World Series. The Cubs finally won it all, and there you composed a song called "The Cubs Won It All" in 2016, and it's of course the true story of what happened. And how did this all wind up in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
It's honestly, it's one of the greatest stories ever told, really, for humanity, but certainly for myself as well. It's the kind of story that only happens every 108 years.
Right.
I had a recording session booked that night, and because after the game was supposed to be over, and as you will remember, there was the rain, the drama, the thunder, the delays, and so I kept telling the session, I said, why don't you come at 9:30? Oh, why don't you come at 10:30? And so she finally showed up, and the game wasn't happening, and so we were mixing her song. And then I heard on the TV, I heard the announcers came back on air, and I said, if we don't sit down and watch this game, the ghosts of everyone in my life are going to come down and haunt us. So we went down, saw the game, finished her mix, and I was just ecstatic. And I actually met up with some Chicago transplants who had been partying the whole time while I was mixing. We met for a late meal. and the jubilation, the celebration. And I decided to take Mulholland Drive back to my place. And so I'm driving in Mulholland Drive, and the stars are out, and it's just this beautiful night, and I'm just so happy that it finally happened. The Cubs finally won. And this song came in. And so I was just like, oh, wow, this is a good one. And so I'm working on it, because I write a lot of songs while I'm driving, or while I'm doing the dishes, or while I'm out hiking or walking. And I kind of self-edit myself that when there's a really good one, you're gonna be up all night working on it. And so it just kind of got better and better and better by the time I got home. And so I picked up my guitar, I finished the song, and I said, oh man, I got to record this now. And so now it's about 2 or 3 in the morning. And so I recorded what you hear on the guitar and the vocal is just one take live. And so then I overdubbed, and I overdubbed some other instruments, and I mixed it all together. And so it's about 5, 6, 7 in the morning, and I'm about to go to bed. And I said, you know what? I just need to put this out. And so I put it out. I sent out some links on some Facebooks and some YouTube, and I go to bed at about 7 in the morning, and I wake up at noon, and it's already on Chicago radio. It's already blowing up, and people are saying, where can I get it on iTunes? Well, anyone in the music business knows it takes a bit of time to get your music onto iTunes, not minutes or hours. And the song was literally, 5, 6 hours old when it was blowing up. And so it was just all over the place. And people were taking it to Wrigley Field and holding it up to the bricks so that the stadium could hear the song.
Oh,
people
cool.
were taking cell phones to cemeteries, holding it up to gravestones so that their dead loved ones could hear the song. And it just kept blowing up and blowing up. And so then Lynn Bremer had it on the radio
XRT,
and XRT.
Yeah.
And it was blowing up on XRT, so my phone's blowing up. Everything is it's insane. And so that Friday there was the rally for the Cubs, and it's to date it's the largest gathering of humanity in American history, if not world history, because there were 5 million people in one place celebrating this. And my song was just getting played the entire time while that's going on. And I was actually doing a gig with the actor Ronnie Cox. He was in Beverly Hills Cop and Total Recall. And good friend of mine. And so Ronnie and I are up doing a gig up in San Luis Obispo. And as we're driving up, my phone is just exploding. And I'm trying to be polite to Ronnie to not be, promoting. But my phone was it was a surreal experience. And so then the following Monday, I get an email from the Baseball Hall of Fame, and they just said, hey, we just wanted to let you know that we've printed out the lyrics to your song, and they are officially going into the archives and libraries of the Baseball Hall of Fame. And for a kid who grew up playing baseball and loving baseball and always joked, one day I'll be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, I found a back way in.
Well, what do we say? What do you say we play it right now? The Cubs won it all in 2016. Sure. Let's play it right now on Someone You Should Know.
This is a song for my dad and all the other moms and dads who never got to see it. I wish I could tell them they finally won. Should have seen Game 7. Man, it was fun. Tied in the ninth, the rain coming down. Extra innings in Cleveland town. Well, I've got a story that you might not believe, but the Cubs won it all in 2016. Yeah, the Cubs won it all in 2016. Well, they had the pitching and they had the bats. They ditched the goats, Bartmans and cats. Joe Madden got them going. They worked as a team. And the Cubs won it all in 2016. Yeah, the Cubs won it all in 2016. Well, holy cow, they're world champions now. Wrigleyville's wrapped in a dance. Harry and Jack and Ernie and Ron, Tinkers, Evers and Chance. I wish there were a way to have another catch and to thank our folks for teaching us that. And to share with them just one more dog and a beer. And explain to them we have no more use for the expression, maybe next year. 'Cause although it's true, it still feels like a dream. But the Cubs won it all in 2016. Yeah, the Cubs won it all in 2016. And I know as a Cubs fan with a dying request. Well, Steve, this year, they're finally the best. No more doormats, if you know what I mean. 'Cause the Cubs won it all in 2016. Yeah, the Cubs won it all in 2016. So fly the W as high as it goes. And those numbers next to Emus Cthulhu are now zeros. And that night in Cleveland, wow, what a scene. When Bryant fielded the ball through to Rizzo. Holy cow. And the Cubs won it all in 2016. Yeah, the Cubs won it all in 2016. Yeah, the Cubs won it all in 2016. Hey, Chicago, what do you say?
The Cubs won it all in 2016. They sincerely did, and that's what we just heard right there from our friend Ted Wulfers on Someone You Should Know. Now, we're going to switch gears from baseball to another thing. We're going to talk about guitars. You obviously love guitars, and there's a documentary that you're working on right now called the Gibson J45 acoustic guitar. You got inspired by this because of a famous songwriter who borrowed your guitar. You want to give us that story?
Yeah, in LA, a lot of us have gear cartage, where our gear comes and goes when we're in and out of town, or keep drum sets and big amps in, and basically it's a big storage system for musical instruments. And so several people have rented and borrowed some of my gear throughout the years, but I don't really usually rent out some of my A-list equipment. And so Beck has rented a Rode case from me, Stevie Wonder rented monitors from me, just smaller items, but some of my valuable guitars, I just don't let them go out. And so I get a call from my gear cartage at the time, and they called me and they said, hey, somebody wants to rent your 2003 J45, a Gibson acoustic guitar. And I said, well, that's on my A-list. That gear doesn't go out. And they said, well, this guy's pretty A-list. And I said, well, how A-list? And he said, kind of capital A of the capital A's of the A-list. And I said, oh, okay, well, who is it? And it's Bob Dylan. And I said, Bob Dylan can rent my guitar. And so the story was Bob's main gear, his main touring gear, was on a boat headed to Asia for their Asian tour. And they needed to do some appearances, some recording, and some rehearsals in LA. And my exact model, make 2003 J45, had the specific nut, the specific pickup, the specific dimensions of the J45 that he was using quite a bit on that tour, and that was on a boat to Asia. And so he rented my guitar and another J45, and he used those for a week. And one of the amazing things is I get the guitar back with Bob's DNA on it.
How cool is that?
And so I was like, oh, I'm never going to change these strings. And the irony is the Cubs song included that, then became the vinyl exclusive and went into the Baseball Hall of Fame as an actual vinyl as well as just the lyrics. I wrote that with the Bob Dylan guitar strings. I wrote two of my other very most successful songs of my career with the Bob Dylan guitar strings. So maybe there is something to the DNA. But when I got the guitar back, my buddy Eric and Yusuf, we were filming a video of me playing Bob Dylan, where I was going to do like 5 Bob Dylan songs, 5 Ted Wulfers songs. We were going to film it and put this out. And we did. And it looks great and it sounds great. But we thought, everyone in the world has done something like this. What is so special about this J45? Why did I buy it back in 2003? Why did Bob Dylan need it? And so we started looking up online, and there was nothing nothing about any of that. And so we started a documentary film that I've been directing the last bunch of years. It's taken me all around the world, interviewing hundreds of artists, the world famous, up and coming. Um, and we lost a lot of ground with the pandemic, unfortunately. We had so many interviews that just got postponed. And so we're kind of back on the saddle a little bit again on that. So I have no end date at the moment on when the film is complete, but it is a full feature, feature length documentary on the Gibson J45 acoustic guitar
Cool.
that takes us back to 1942 until today. And the Gibson company has been amazing and very helpful throughout the whole thing, and just some world famous artists. And so it's going to be, it's very much your rock and roll, Ken Burns, different but unique, but just classic documentary film that people who love guitars are obviously going to love. But more importantly, when people see our trailer who don't love guitars, they're like, I need to see that movie. That looks interesting.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to talk about another song here. This is called Ghost. It's a very ethereal song, and especially if you have lost someone that you've loved, this is a song that looks at a different perspective. Tell us that one.
Yeah, the Ghosts. I just remember, I love the lick. I'm so proud of the lick on that song, the opening intro, and I was hanging out with my mom about 6 months after my dad died. We were just having this conversation, and I was holding my first acoustic guitar that I got back in 1994, a Gibson, a Mitchell acoustic, and it's just this little beater acoustic guitar. And I had obviously, in staying at my mom's place, I had left it in a different tuning than I usually keep my guitars in, a couple of years prior to playing the guitar again. And so I picked up the guitar while my mom was having this conversation, and there was the lick. And the song just came, and it came very quickly. And I'm just so proud how so many people have a completely different perspective, a different meaning from that song. People think it's about, loss of life. People think it's about loss of relationships. People think it's about, outer space and ghosts. And so I just love when a song can have 100 different meanings to 100 different people, right? Because that's why we write them. And so American Songwriter magazine, Paul Zollo did an amazing piece on the song, and my buddy Eric Nielsen and I put together a really cool music video for it. And I went to Eric and I said, I also do a lot of photography, and I said, man, is there a way that we could get a tintype, like me as a tintype, but coming to life and using some non-CGI, but actually with camera tricks? And we researched, and there hadn't really been anything like that. And so I actually called one of the most famous tintype photographers in the country, and he said, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And anytime anybody says I can't do it, I know I can. and so, but Eric racked his brain, and he did the math on it. And so we filmed it all live. All the tintype, footage is all me, all camera tricks. And I'm so proud of that music video. I love when I send it to film people and I say, hey, we did some stuff that hasn't been done before. And they say, oh, yeah, right. And then they watch it and they're like, oh, wow, you did. And so another interesting thing, my friend Jess DeLong, she is the co-star of the music video. And she is just an amazing person, an amazing collector of fine clothes, of old clothes. She knows everything about clothes. And so I called her and I said, I'm trying to do this thing where you can be kind of a Victorian style tintype. She showed up with the most amazing dress and outfit. She looks like she came right out of the 1880s or 1890s for this tintype. Just absolutely amazing. But some irony, speaking of ghosts, through some DNA testing, I have an ancient ancestor who I'm related to, Sir William Alexander, who was the Secretary of State of Scotland.
Oh, my.
And he was this famous poet in Scotland. And he edited and was brought in by King James to edit the Psalms and translate the Psalms for the King James Bible. And the castle that he was born in was built by Jess DeLong's ancestors.
Oh, my goodness.
So when you talk about the ghosts, there was a lot going on in that music video, and we were all just, this is just too cool. And we actually learned all of that after we had filmed it. So
we're going to we're going to include that video in the show notes, so I want to make sure that every listener has a chance to check it out. But I want everyone to hear the song right now. This is Ghosts from Ted Wulfers.
say spirits can't be seen. They say love lasts forever. Yes, this life ain't a dream. Knowing you and I are together. Have you ever lost somebody who you love the most? I guess maybe to everybody, you and I are the ghosts. They say this town has been around since the river met the sea. I bet here there can be found ancient versions of you and me. Have you ever lost somebody who you love the most? I guess maybe to everybody, you and I are the ghosts. Did I see you in a dream? Did I feel you in the air? Do I know what really seems? Knowing you will always be there. Have you ever lost somebody who you love the most? I guess maybe everybody, you and I are the ghosts. I guess you and I are the ghosts. I guess you and I are the ghosts.
Great song there called Ghost, a very wonderful song. Once again, the video to that will be found in the show notes to this. We're speaking to Ted Wulfers, my guest today on Someone You Should Know. Another thing I wanted to talk to, Ted, is actually something that's going to be that's actually in the Field Museum. What's this about a monster marlin that you caught that's in the museum? Is that right?
Yeah, back in on February 28th, 2002, my dad and I went deep sea fishing off the far, far southwest coast of the big island of Hawaii. And of course, whenever you go fishing, you probably are going to catch nothing, and you usually catch nothing, but you never know what you're going to catch. And so we were fishing for whatever. We didn't know if we were going to catch a big tuna, and a giant marlin hit my line. And Kevin Nakamura, the the captain of the Northern Lights fishing boat, he just said, "Oh man, guys, we have a big one." And my dad filmed the whole thing, which was amazing. And so,
is that a feature-length film too? I imagine to land that thing.
It could be. It was 45 minutes and a very sore arm, and we had the fish in the boat, and it was just the most magical, surreal, Hemingway, crazy moment of my life at the time, and it was just really amazing. And so we get the fish, and we take it back, and of course, Kevin's very proud to fly the big marlin flag as we pull into the harbor. Mm-hmm. And we didn't realize that it was a February record. And so the press is there, and the press is taking pictures of all of us and me for some magazine stuff because it was a February record. And Kevin was very proud of the fish coming in on his boat. And so they asked my dad and I, and they said, would you like a mount of this? And in the moment, we said, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. And it was a 14.5-foot, 663-pound Pacific Blue Marlin. Well, I don't know if you've ever hung anything on your wall in your house that's 14.5 feet, but about a year later, an 18-wheeler showed up in the driveway with a giant crate. And we said, what the hell are we going to do with this? And it actually sat in our garage for a little bit because it was just so huge and so amazingly big. And so eventually I reached out to the Field Museum of Chicago, and I said, would you be interested in having this piece? And they were just over the moon amazed, and I was over the moon to donate it to the Field Museum. And it lived next to Sue the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the basement for a couple of years, which is very cool to see the real Sue down there. And then she started to hang in exhibits on the color of the ocean and the physics of the ocean. And she's been called the cheetah of the sea. Mm. And she toured all over the world. I believe she's been to about 37 countries. She's been viewed by over 10 million people at the Field Museum in Chicago or in these traveling exhibits. And 663 is the weight of her, and it's also the name of my recording studio.
I was going to ask you about that.
My publishing company. Yeah. And it is amazing how the numbers 663, everywhere I go, almost every day, if I park in a parking lot, the apartment number next to it will be 663. It's a number that just haunts me and keeps me going, and I'm very proud to keep her legacy on, celebrated through music and through art, because it was an amazing day, and she gets to teach school kids about physics for the rest of the time.
Wonderful. Leslie and I are going to the Field Museum in October, so we'll definitely get a photo of that and send it to you of us and 0663.
Yeah, I was a lover of the Field Museum as a kid, and so it's neat to have a fish that I caught in there after growing up looking at all those amazing animals there.
If you found your piece on the ocean and you actually got a big fish from it, next song we're going to talk about is Find Some Peace. We're going to play that right now on Someone You Should Know from our guest, Ted Wulfers.
An old friend, tell him I still care. Make a little loving, make a little music. Don't you know it's the same thing if you know how to use it? So take a walk with me. I don't know where I'm going, but there's no place that I'd rather be. Living in the moment, find the honesty, and find some peace. Go for a long drive, maybe a bike ride. Some days are better staying inside. Looking for hope, looking for dignity, looking for love, looking for peace. So take a walk in the moment. Find the honesty and find some peace. I know it's hard going your own way. I know it's hard seizing your own day. But there ain't no hill that ain't worth climbing. Ain't no road that ain't worth driving. Ain't no wish that ain't worth wishing. Ain't no girl that ain't worth kissing. Take a walk with me. I don't know where I'm going, but there's no place that I'd rather be. Living in the moment, find the honesty, find some peace.
Great song right there from Ted Wulfers right there. That is Find Some Peace. It's Rick Anthony with you on Someone You Should Know with my guest today, Ted Wulfers.
One of the great things about Find Some Peace is it's a ukulele rock song I put out years ago that has just really helped a lot of people around the world. But a new version of that song, an acoustic version, is right now featuring in an award-winning film called Abby's List, a documentary.
Oh, cool.
About a dog that traveled the world in her last year and a half of life. Mark Sutherland, her owner and the director of the film, has made this amazing, emotional, wonderful film. And the new version of Find Some Peace is now the closing credits song for that because the chorus is Take a Walk with Me. And it just fit a movie about dogs so well. So I'm very proud that that song is finding many new lives, not just in music, but also in film.
It's strange. A couple of days ago, I posted on Facebook and a couple other sources that some of the guests that were going to be as we kicked off the show, and I mentioned one of the guests was Fee Waybill of the Tubes, and you commented that, Rick, I've got some trivia for you. I went bowling with him. Tell me about it.
You are correct. I actually did end up going bowling with Fee Waybill. It was one of the best and most hilarious stories. I was just hanging out with no plans, and one of my best friends, John Payne from the band Asia, he calls me and he's like, "Teddy, would you like to go bowling?" And I said, "Yeah, man." And he's like, "Okay." And it's one of these things like in LA, sometimes you can be really casual all the time, but sometimes you're like, I should put on a nice shirt. And so I put on a nice shirt and I go meet John to go bowling. I did not realize that we were going to be on a celebrity bowling team at the Ronnie James Dio celebrity charity bowling event.
My Lord.
And so John and I walk in, and we're on this team, and there are our names, and there's Richie Sambora and Orianthi are also on our team, and the guys from Stone Sour and Rowan Robertson, who used to be in the band Dio, and then Fee Waybill. And John Payne and Fee are great old friends. And so we just had this hilarious time bowling and laughing. And Richie Sambora was like, "Hey, we're from the East Coast in Chicago. We got to carry this team." And we just had an adorable, hilarious time. And then Secret Service came in and shut us all down and held us in place. And out walked, at the moment we thought was Barack Obama. It was the #1 Barack Obama impersonator. And so it was this hilarious night of, bumping into all these people and rubbing shoulders with, who's who in music. And then like the Secret Service and this Obama impersonator appeared. It was just a hilarious night of bowling in the San Fernando Valley and with Fee. And so maybe we'll end up on a bowling team again one of these days.
Well, and then when I talk to Fee, I'm going to have to talk about that. We're going to wrap up the show with one that is really kind of a very interesting, a real cool video, and a very interesting song, Sego Canyon in beautiful Utah. Tell us that one as we close out the show, Ted.
So Sego Canyon is a place that I stumbled into. Back in 2011, I was driving across the country, and I saw a sign that said, Native American paintings this way. And it was just a very, subdued sign, and I walk up, and I just felt this amazing energy. And it was something I've never felt before. I could feel every sense of humanity, like every pain, every joy, every sorrow. It was really just a powerful experience. And the artwork was just so amazing. And to see something in North America that is 11,000 years old or possibly older is very special, because, this country is just barely a couple hundred years old. And to see something that was 11,000 years old was really striking. And so I wrote this song, Gotta Go, to Sego Canyon. And so after the song was done, I concocted and I wrote this video about how I was going to be a scientist who, was trying to tell people about aliens and trying to tell people about, the universe and everything. And then I was going to go for a drive and be captured by an alien woman who was then going to turn me into a rock star and then take me off into space via Sego Canyon. Because I got to tell you, if you go to Sego Canyon, the people back then, they didn't have TV, they didn't have movies, they didn't have the internet. They drew what they saw. They drew what they knew. It's the Mark Twain thing, write what you know. Mm-hmm. And if you see some of these drawings in person, these are otherworldly beings. Mm-hmm. These people have oxygen tanks. These people are flying. They're coming from the sky. Who knows what they saw? We don't know. That's the beautiful thing about it. But I put together this really, really fantastic and fun music video, co-starring Pepper Kester, great actress, and my friend Eric, again, worked his magic putting it all together. And we drove to Sego Canyon and we filmed it next to the guys. And then my buddy Wout, who did the artwork for Wout Winans, did the artwork for my Tremolo Moon record. I asked him if he could, in the video, draw a comic version of me and my cat Jagger to be part of the drawings on the wall. And he did that with great success. So that was
wonderful, fun. Wonderful. We're going to play that now as we close the show. Before we do, though, Ted, best way to reach you and your music?
TedWulfers.com, TedWulfers.com. Also Bandcamp. I have a Bandcamp store where I have a ton of vinyl records, CDs, coffee mugs, coasters, stickers, T-shirts, hats, you name it. And then I'm on all the streaming sites and in various stores, Amazon and all kinds of record stores. But Ted Wulfers, TedWulfers.com. I'm more active on Instagram than I am the Facebooks and the Twitters. So hopefully next year when I'm back to touring again, you can come see me wherever I'm doing my thing.
Awesome, buddy. If you come to Chicagoland, Leslie and I will definitely be there. Thanks for listening to this edition of Someone You Should Know. This episode, Ted Wulfers is our guest today. We're going to close it up once again by playing Sego Canyon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much.
Sego Canyon.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.